Hare Krishna. Just a brief interjection. That Arjuna asked Krishna in the Bhagavad-gītā, what are the symptoms of somebody who's fixed in consciousness, sthita prajna? And the first answer that Krishna gives is that a person who's fixed in consciousness is able to notice that the way the mind manufactures problems and presents us to it is incessant. And you may notice it when you're chanting japa, because japa is a kind of self-examination. Swadhyaya, it's meant for you to take a look and see what's actually going on. Don't just follow blindly. And so Krishna says, prajahati yada kāman sarva-partha manogatan, which means the mind is a little factory. And what's it producing? Problems. And you may notice when you're chanting japa that there's a conveyor belt, and off of it comes one problem after another. Have you ever noticed that? I have to solve this. Why'd that person say this to me? How come he looked at me like that? When am I going to get my check in the mail? They said they'd send it last week. It goes on unlimitedly, Krishna says. And then he says, the person who's fixed in consciousness, which is what we can do when we're chanting japas, practices prajahati. It means you observe the conveyor belt going, but you don't identify with the problems. Don't try to solve them. Instead, just put it to Krishna. Krishna, there's all these problems going on, and then don't identify with them. Don't grab them, confirmed. Just notice them, that they're going, and then atman yevatmana tushta, be satisfied in the self. And how can you be satisfied in the self? Through this gratitude that is mentioned in one of the verses that Uddhava says at the very end of the Uddhava-gītā, naivopayanty apacitiṁ kavayas taveśa, brahmāyuṣāpi kṛtam ṛddha-mudaḥ smarantaḥ, in which he says, when I think of you, Kṛṣṇa, the way you take care of me, from within and without, I'm so grateful that I couldn't express that gratitude even if I had a few lifespans of Brahmā. I wouldn't come to the end of it. And based on that, one of our ācāryas says, the devotees remember Krishna's promise in the Bhagavad-gītā, sarva-dharmān parityajya, ekaṁ śaraṇaṁ vraja, ahaṁ sarva-pāpebhyo mokṣayiṣyāmi śucaḥ. I'm here for you. I'll deliver you from all the problems. Just give them to me. And Jīva Gosvāmī says that the devotee always remembers that, Krishna's promise. And in that, while we're chanting japa, we take the time to notice the conveyor belt, just take shelter of Krishna's mercy, that he says, just hand all your problems to me and take shelter of me. I'll absolve you of all these difficulties. And then notice that you're not your problems. They're always there in the material world. As soon as we identify with them, then we get drawn down the river. So this is a time when you can be especially aware of this phenomena and be fixed in consciousness, which means to keep choosing to take shelter of Krishna and the holy name instead of grabbing onto the problems and trying to solve them in your mind. Any reflection before we take our last 15 minutes of chanting? Of how it's going so far? Sharing means caring. I'll count down from 5 and then I'll start calling on people indiscriminately. Vrindavan.
Hare Krishna. So, yesterday, Guru Maharaj, you mentioned the quote over here about cultivating separation from Vrindavan Dham here at GEV. And this morning during Radha Vrindavan Bihari's Mangalarti, which is on Zoom, I was like feeling that so strongly because we can't even see them in person. And I was thinking like, oh my gosh, like I can't even see the deity, like this is so, so unfortunate. But then I looked around at all these really happy devotees that were just dancing in so much ecstasy. chanting the holy name. And I was reminded of something that Sripad Indra Prabhu says, which is that like the name is also a deity. The name, like we have to treat the name with a great deal of seriousness, and we decorate it with different melodies and different realizations and things like that. Yeah, so even though we're not like, you know, presently with the deity or something, like we have the name. Anytime, anywhere, anyhow, we have the name.
Thank you. One more. Anything with your chanting this morning? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hey, bye.
I was thinking on Ram's point about how our name, similar to what Vrindavan Prabhu said, the name is Kṛṣṇa, and just being conscious of that changes the mood of chanting significantly. Before it was kind of like, it was just going with the name, but being conscious of what the name actually is and the glories of it is very enlivening to what you're doing, and it makes you a lot more serious in your chanting and trying to be aware of it.
Thank you. Just to give Shastra to that point, Narada Muni says in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavatam, Iti murtyabhidanena mantra murtima murtikam yajite purush sa samyak darshana pumam. He says that the chanting of the name is amurtikam. Murti means form, and it also means difficulty. So he says when you chant the name, that it's not difficult to see the form of Krishna. And he says, darshana puman, you get the full darshan of Krishna through the name. There's no difference. Vaishnavis, keep up. One more from this side. Yes. Manya.
Hare Krishna. I really liked how Ram started us off, and one of the points that he mentioned was notice the thought, embrace it, and then let it go. And I think that was important because as different thoughts were coming into my mind, even if they were spiritual, I was able to embrace it and be like, and let it go and focus more on the vibration. And that made a huge difference in just embracing it and then letting it go. So I appreciated how Ram started us off.
Haribol. Okay, let's try for, we have 10 more minutes, right? Let's try for 10 more minutes, do some self-examination, and just remember, it's live. Krishna is fully present there in his holy name, and if you make the choice, you can bring your awareness just to Krishna. How'd it go? Could you rate yourself on your japa today? You don't have to tell anybody, but scale of 1 to 10. Did you have a few moments of clarity? Actually, every time we make this endeavor to chant the holy name and focus our mind then, as a direct process, we'll find either in the moment or later on that it's fortifying. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya Yashavaya Ragyam Yanam Chayarai Tukam. Directly worshiping Krishna brings the result of knowledge and detachment. So, congratulations for taking your valuable time to sit down and give full attention to the holy names. And now we're going to perform the puja for our founder, ācāryas Śrīla Prabhupada, Guru Puja. And as a reminder, there are various places in the practice of bhakti where we get our sustenance. And one of them is through the Sri Guru Parampara. When we worship the ācāryas, as Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad-gītā, that is where the power of Krishna comes to us to perform devotional service. So it's not just a ritual, but it's actually a way of connecting to Kṛṣṇa. Although it seems indirect, it's direct. So there's a few prayers we have in the songbook. What page? 221. 251. It's a big songbook. On page 251, there's a few preliminary prayers that we'll be saying as we go through our yatra before we do, we call Guru Puja. And we'll say them all together once we stand up, and then we'll have the Guru Puja. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan. If you so desire, please empower us to chant your holy names with gratitude. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpataruscha kripasinabheva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.